Hey, the hot topic right now is NFL running backs. So with three running backs, Saquon, Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, and Tony Pollard all receiving the franchise tag and not coming to an agreement on a long-term deal with their teams. Only Pollard has signed this franchise tag. The other two are holding out. Many running backs have taken to social media, including Najee, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, to voice their support for their fellow running backs and the frustration that they're feeling of not getting respect in the free agent market. So, Don, we've talked about this, but we're going to talk about it again. Are running backs in the NFL being too undervalued?
So, too undervalued, not just undervalued, but too undervalued. I mean, when you put it that way, maybe the elite running backs are being a little bit too undervalued. And we're talking guys like Saquon in this particular instance. I wouldn't put Pollard and Jacobs quite in Barkley's, tier. So, but when you're talking guys like Saquon, maybe they are a little too undervalued. But generally speaking of the position, even though, I love running backs. I loved watching Barry Sanders.
No, you don't.
Back in the day.
No, you don't.
Back in the day,
No. First of all, we're not going to lie on this show, and we're not going to have a revisionist history. You absolutely hate running backs. If anything, these running backs need to come to you and give you all the smoke because you have been pushing this for years that running backs don't deserve long-term contracts. You were mad when Todd Gurley got his deal. And what's your world-famous quote when it comes to running backs in the NFL? Don't shy away from it now. What is it?
I don't have one. I'm going to tell everybody.
For everyone that knows he's lying, his famous motto when it comes to NFL running backs is tag them till they die. That's literally what he has said on this show. So I don't know where this love for the running back is coming from. I knew you had something up your sleeve. Continue with your lie.
All right. I don't know if that's exactly what I said, but anyway, generally speaking of the position, I mean, I don't think they're too undervalued. And first you got to look at one thing, the non-elite versus the elite players. So when you look at non-elite, JT, the 49ers do a running back by committee. What'd they do last year then? They went in and got the elite of the elite in Christian McCaffrey, and guess what? Couldn't get him to another level
because they didn't have a quarterback.
Okay, but exactly my point. You need the quarterback. You need the defense.
Yes, you do, and we'll talk about that. You do need a quarterback, but to act like the days of Tom Brady are over, where it's like all you need is him, and then the team will figure the rest out. Like you need running backs.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to get to that. So then you look at the elite players, and recently it was like Saquon, and then Zeke when he signed his contract at the time, right? No Super Bowl appearances, no conference championship appearances, and you look at the last 10 Super Bowls going back to 2014, and I know you've heard me say this before. Look at all those running backs that the teams that won a Super Bowl. The only truly really good to great running back, I wouldn't even say he was elite, was Marshawn Lynch. You look at everybody else is basically a committee or a guy that is good, Pro Bowl type.
But I hate that narrative though. No, hold on, because that.
But let me finish the.
No, but that is floating around. Oh, the last 10 Super Bowl winners, they basically have scrub cheap running backs, and it's like
that's not true. Let me
break it down though. Be honest about those teams.
Listen, Kansas City, Philly, New England. Let's admit it. They didn't have just one guy, even Miles Sanders. But you look, they didn't overpay for him. They did a good job drafting, and then they let him walk, and they got a Super Bowl. And you look at Tampa, who was their running back? Leonard Fournette, very good, Pro Bowl type guy. But they're not paying 12, 13 million over 4 or 5 years for the guy. And you look at Denver when they won their Super Bowl. Baltimore in 2013 had Ray Rice, again, a very good running back at the time before he did everything, wrong off the field. But let's face it, he's not Saquon Barkley. Ray Rice was not in that tier of Christian
don't disrespect. Ray Rice was nice. He was one of the top backs in the league. You want to talk about a guy that can run and catch?
I understand, but again, he didn't win a Super Bowl. And I'll tell you why you don't need a running back to win a Super Bowl. The last time there was a running back Super Bowl MVP, do you know who it was? In what year?
You're going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you because you don't know.
Some Steeler in the 80s.
Well, we didn't win anything in the 80s. You had to go back to 1998, Terrell Davis. That's the last time a running back was an MVP in a Super Bowl. But think about it. That correlates to when the league started to go to a passing league. And that's my other point. Like, sorry, it's the nature of the position nowadays. It is a passing league. The receivers are going to get their money. And the example is Le'Veon Bell, right? Steelers ran him into the ground. He had that one major injury on the Burfict hit. He sits out. And as you get to 29 years old, it's a fact. Your stats, production go downhill. And the receivers are in their prime at 29, and quarterbacks haven't even hit their prime yet in 29 anymore at the age of 29. So you're going to spend $16 million on a running back. That's 7% of the cap. And the sticking point is the guarantees. You could be on the hook for years with a running back. If you sign Barkley to a massive deal now, he gets hurt, he's done. Like Gurley, you're on the hook for 4 or 5 years. This isn't baseball where you just pay them and it doesn't hurt the salary cap.
I get what you're saying. Do running backs take more contact on average than players on the field? Yes, I will say this, but to say that you don't need them to win a Super Bowl, I think is false. And let's look at the last 10 Super Bowls, because that's all everyone's talking about. Oh, the last 10 Super Bowls, basically no star running backs on those teams. Let's break it down. 4 of those Super Bowls were won by Tom Brady. 2 by Patrick Mahomes. So that's 6 right there that belong to literally 2 people. And then the rest of these, the Seahawks, the Broncos, and the Eagles, I mean, those might be top 15 defenses all time when you look at those teams. So those are not the rule. Those are exceptions. The only Super Bowl that sticks out to me where maybe
you just read the last 6 Super Bowls. How's that?
I'm just saying though. These are all-time great quarterbacks. These are all-time great quarterbacks. Most teams don't have this, so you do need a running back. The Rams in 2021 is the only team where I'm like, you know what? They maybe got lucky. Like they could use a running back. Like they need a running back. They got lucky. Like if Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes are on these teams, like these teams aren't winning Super Bowls without a running back. Like it's not even possible. Take Patrick Mahomes off the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Is Isaiah Pacheco getting them to a Super Bowl? You need running backs. You need a good one. He's not doing that by himself.
But it goes to, I'm glad Jason Curtis and you left that comment up. I'd rather spend $50 million on a quarterback like a Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, or Brady, and 5 on a running back like a Miles Sanders or a James White or whoever.
I get that.
Then 40 on a quarterback who's a Kirk Cousins, and then 15 on a running back like a Dalvin Cook.
I'm not saying the franchise quarterback is not important. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, don't fall for the false narrative that every team is just a year or development away from getting a Mahomes. Like, it's not true. Like, you're naming the elite of elite quarterbacks. You named 2 guys, Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. They were in the Super Bowl for a reason.
That's not
like
true.
If Kirk Cousins doesn't have a running back like Dalvin Cook, like they're not good. Most teams are like that.
Nick Foles won, and you said they had a great defense.
They had an all-time great defense, and they had a good team.
Whoa. To say all-time great, not
Bro, go back and look at that defense. It's pretty loaded.
Not that year. Not all-time great. Was it great? Sure. All-time great is different. They're not the 85 Bears or the 76.
I didn't say that, but you're acting like they weren't top defense in the league.
All-time great. That's what we're talking about.
Even this Philly defense, they went to the Super Bowl. Like you look at the stats, like they should be up there.
They were great, not all-time great. But you're proving the point. Yes, it's easy to find an elite running back.
I don't think it is.
A lot of them have elite running backs.
I don't think it is easy to find an elite running back. What's your definition of an elite running back?
It's easier to find an elite running back than the elite quarterback. But guess what? You can find the elite running back. If you don't got the quarterback that's up to par, you never win the Super Bowl. But if you have the elite quarterback, you can have an average running back by committee and get the job done.
Hey man, all I gotta say is this is because Sean McVay is just mad that Todd Gurley ruined his little Hall of Fame Wonder Kid run. Everybody was glazing him up. He was going to be the next greatest, best coach of all time. And Todd Gurley made him look that way, and then Todd Gurley got hurt, and then all of a sudden everybody's pissed at the running backs now. Like, blame the Rams. Like, everyone knew Todd Gurley's knees were bad coming out of Georgia. Like, they're the ones decided to pay him. That's not Todd Gurley's fault. If anything, Todd Gurley gave it all he had until he couldn't do it.
They proved the point. Everyone learned from that.
They don't know what they're doing.
Learn from that. So now you're upset. Now you're upset because everyone learned from the Rams' mistake. Don't be upset.
But it had nothing to do with the position.
Running
Todd
back
Gurley was already
better.
damaged before he came into the league. Everyone knew his knees were bad.
If you don't have an elite running back, you can just do it by committee. I agree with Jay.
Whatever. I disagree.
Don't disagree with our fans. Don't disagree with our fans.
I can do what I want.
See, so that's your attitude.
So bottom line is, how can the running backs fix the money issue?
Well, I mentioned it before. There's two ways. Well, one, we always talk about through the CBA, but guess what? Like, meaning remove the 2-time tag. Yeah, you want to tag us once, that's fine, but you can't do 2. But the problem is, JT, the CBA, the current one, that's effective until March of 2030. So you can't fix it right now. You got 7 years. So the other way is, this is what I would say: do shorter contracts if you're the running back, if you're the agent, but a higher percentage of guaranteed money. So take less on the yearly average, but guarantee, ask for 90% guaranteed, 95% guaranteed of the contract, and do it for a shorter time. Like, don't try to get the bank when you're eligible. Meaning, let's say Barkley was eligible. Let's say after the 3rd year, they picked up his 5th-year option. After the 4th year, he was eligible for an extension, right? So he's guaranteed that 5th year, add on just a 2-year extension. So now you're guaranteed money the next 3 years. You're guaranteed the team option for the 5th year, which is guaranteed. And then if you guarantee the next 2 after that, just say, you know what, pay me 2 years, 25 mil, but guarantee 23 of it. All right. So now you have literally 3 years of guaranteed money. You become a free agent again at 26, 27. If you've been balling out, all right, they got to make a decision. So at least at the worst case, you've already banked 50 million before they can even tag you. I truly think that's the way to go nowadays, but we'll see.
I can get with you on that. I mean, the bottom line is they can't really do much until CBA is reworked. I mean, that's what it is. Because
the 7 years, bro.
The ideal thing would be to fix how much they get paid when they come into the league. Like, maybe I'm fighting for a look. Like, if I'm a running back and I get drafted within a certain round, like my rookie contract is fully guaranteed, like, I would be fighting for that. The real answer to the question is, running backs, stay in college as long as you can and get that NIL money. Like, that's really the answer to the question. Blake Corum has shown you guys the way. Now, the guys that are in the league, they can't do that, but all the up and coming running backs, like, if you ain't Bijan Robinson and you're going to be a 1st-round pick, he's one of the highest paid, or the highest paid running back, I think, this year, which is crazy. He hasn't played a snap yet. But if you're not in that caliber of being drafted, go back to school. Do not declare early. Go back to your school, get all the NIL money you can, and just see where you land in the NFL. Like, Blake Corum going to be a rich man before he even gets drafted in the 4th or 5th round next year. That's the smart way to go.
That NIL money is guaranteed once you sign a contract. You just got to show up to a couple of appearances, you know?
There we go.
So Germ says, looking good, fellas. Thank you, Germ. Great show the other night. You're actually making us look good with these graphics. We see you in the background.
Real, man. That man coming through in the clutch. I like it.
Jason Curtis says, here's the different question. There is a cap. If running backs are underpaid, who is overpaid? It has to come from somewhere. I mean, at the end of the day, it's either the quarterbacks or the receivers.
I think it's cornerbacks.
Well, if you have a shutdown
wide receivers,
if you have a legit shutdown corner, it's worth it. But they do overpay for corners. You're right, because as soon as they get the money, all of a sudden it's like they don't know how to cover. All of a sudden,
like Jalen Ramsey been getting paid $100 million, and I'm like, I'm not seeing the Jalen Ramsey that I remember in Jacksonville, where it's like you don't throw to him. Like, if I'm paying you $100 million, I'm expecting Revis Island, where I look at the sheet of all the receivers you've covered, 3 catches, 30 yards. And that's it. That's what I'm expecting for $100 million.
We'll see. I think some receivers are overpaid too, right? Their production isn't always as good as you think.
But I think receivers, it's tricky because I think their production is tied to volume. So, like, AJ Brown would disagree with you, but I mean, also he's like heavily targeted. So it just depends on the situation they end up in. I will say receivers production they're too dependent on other people. Whereas like a corner, you go out there, you're supposed to lock people down. Like quarterback, you go out there, you're supposed to make it happen. I would go with those 2 positions as being overpaid because everything depends on what they do themselves.
I agree. It depends on the quarterback. I don't think Mahomes is overpaid. So
I mean,
not as a football player.
You go into the best. I'm talking about all these average dudes. Like Kirk Cousins getting a fully guaranteed contract every time. Like,
I understand that.
Put that up.
That's why I did the exception. That's how you use the exception to the rule, not like you. Well, the last 6, but those are exceptions.